Hello, everyone. So I just wanted to come on and talk to you. Like, as all of you know, like I've said before on this channel, I am in graduate school. Getting an MA in history, um, from Southern New Hampshire University. University. Um, I originally was doing American history, but I also had there are also some courses in military history that I want to take. And so I was talking to my advisor about that, and she said, you know what, you can just get rid of your American history and then just do history in general, not public history. There are three different majors technically. There's American, public, and there's military. And public is more like working in museums and like actually like being a historian of like probably you would be a historian of like an exact place like you would be like since I live in Milton, I would probably be a historian of Milton if I wanted to or something like that, but or like a curator or something. But I'm not doing that. I haven't decided what I want to do with it exactly. But what I wanted to get on here and talk about was like historiography in general, and what historiography is like at SNHU. Because I don't know what it's like, what historiography is like for in other schools. Um, so number one, historiography is not a research paper. Um, well, you do research in in a historiography paper, but it's not a research paper because a research paper is basically you saying that this like I have a question that I gave to myself, and then now I'm gonna answer it, and this is why. But for historiography, it's basically you are for like historiography in general. The topic of historiography, you are basically studying historians who have perspective on a specific topic you're talking about. Um, so right now I'm in Chinese imperialism. I'm in a Chinese imperialism class. Yeah, woo woo! I'm on my sixth class. I have five more left. Um, and so we're not focusing on like the facts of like what dynasty. You're not focusing on historical. That's stupid. You're not focusing on the facts like um you're not focusing on the facts. You're not like when was the Jin dynasty, when was the Ming dynasty, when was the Tang dynasty, or something. You're focusing on people who are writing about these things, about China and their imperialism. You're in, and it's not to be and usually when you're writing a historiography paper, you don't want to use primary sources. You can, but most of the time you want to use secondary sources, because primary sources, you usually use primary sources in a research paper. If you've ever written a research paper, you use primary sources. So like even if there is a historian who like if there was a historian who wrote about Caesar. I mean, I've never taken a Roman class. Well, I've been at SNHU, but if you have someone a historian talking about Caesar who was alive around the time of Caesar and he interacted with Caesar, he's technically a primary source because he's alive. He's witnessing everything that's going around and writing about what is going on. So technically, he is a primary source. Um, so you wouldn't necessarily use him in a historiography paper. You're writing about historians, like right now, I don't know, right? This is one of my books that I had to read about. I had to read 5 chapters of this even before my class began on Chinese imperialism. So there. It's this class is kicking my butt. It is. So this is by Ralph D. Sawyer, but there are some. But like he's basically translating all of this stuff that was written by like Sun Tzu. This is the Art of War, or like Suma or something. And so technically you can use him as, because he's translating primary sources into a secondary source. So since he's translating, then he's technically a secondary source. I don't know if that helped or anything, but so you're using people, like probably people who are like around, who are around from around your time, because right now I'm in the 21st century, probably from someone from like the 20th century, because Imperial China was started like in the 900s, so in 900 AD. So I would think that that those they wouldn't be primary sources. I mean, probably like if you got someone from like 1600s talking about it, that could probably be a secondary source too. Um, but usually I just talk about historians that are from like around my time, who are still living today, or maybe have died a few years ago. Um, so number 2, historiography is basically evaluating a historiography paper is basically historiography and historiography paper. You would basically evaluate the historians and their explanations on a topic. So like I remember in my intro to historiography course, no, that's not a good example. I know that in my previous class, America and the World Wars, I talked about American journalism, and so I had a bunch of historians that talked about American journalism during during World War One and during World War Two, and a lot of stuff happened. I looked at people who talked about Eleanor Roosevelt. I looked at people who talked about I looked at the rise of superheroes. I looked at someone who talked about Wonder Woman, the creation of Wonder Woman. I talked about people who talked about the creation of Captain America in my things. I looked at I looked at Japanese American. I looked at people who talked about Japanese American newspapers. People who talked about Black American newspapers. I so like your evaluations want to be rich and diverse, but you want to make sure everyone's topping, like it's in. I was in the vicinity of American journalism, because usually sometimes if American journalism in general, we think of newspapers, but journalism can be anything from the funnies in the newspaper to books, and and it can you can be on the radio. I mean, I had one that was talking about Eleanor Roosevelt on the radio. Fireside chats that the famous fireside chats that FDR did when he was weekly FDR fireside chats with him at the White House talking to the people on the radio. Basically you're getting you're they're not I'm not it none of them are primary sources. You can use, like I said before, you can use primary sources, but I don't know. I'm still, even though this is my sixth class, I'm still trying to get used to historiography in general. So I'm not really using primary sources, and professors have not really said you have not really gave their blessing on using primary sources yet, because we still technically don't know how to do historiography papers. They're the professors, so they know what we have to do as people who want to learn how to do historiography, how to work in historiography. So I have a thing right here, so they give notes. So if you see me looking over here, I'm not. I'm just looking at my notes. So basically, I would have probably 10 sources, probably at least 10 sources. And well, technically I had 11 sources in my World Wars class for my historiography paper. You would have at least 10 sources. You would go over, you would give a little synopsis of what the whole article, because these have to be scholarly, peer-reviewed things, usually not websites. But I mean, they teach you how to cite websites, but usually not websites, because you want scholarly, peer-reviewed stuff. So you give it a synopsis of. You can also use books too if you want. You probably already knew that, but I just wanted to put that out there. So you give a synopsis of what each one is, and then you give the strengths, the weaknesses, the gaps and overlaps, and I don't know, the probably what you think of it, why is it essential to your paper. So the strengths and weaknesses, the strengths would basically be oh, I like how they did this. I like how they explained this a little bit. And weaknesses would probably be the biases that you see in the paper, and the gaps can also go within the weaknesses as well. The reason I say biases, not usually them being racist or sexist or something. I mean, it is a bias, so you could use that when you're describing your historians. But what I mean biases, that usually in historiography, like I said, it's the study of other historians on a topic that you are looking at. So you do your research on the historian in general. Are they black? Are they white? Where did they grow up? What was their background in what was their educational background? What time period did they write this article? Because that can work a lot. This is one of the reasons why you also start writing book reviews in this program, because 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 in book reviews you're basically trying to persuade people to read this book. So, and you're saying like we were having like the biases can help you in evaluating and getting to the historian's mind, understanding why did they do it this way. Because like if I'm like I gave before like Japanese American newspapers, if I'm or a Black American newspaper, if I'm a black person, um if I'm a black person writing about the black newspaper in America during World War I or II, I mean, I never obviously I've never lived in World War II, because if I was, or World War I, because I would be really old by right now, and or dead. Um, but I am a black person, so I at least know a little bit of what black people go through. The black community will go. So I'm a little bit more invested in something if I would say like a Japanese American newspaper, because I have no idea what it's like to be a Japanese American, or just in general Japanese person in America. So that would be different. And I also like when I also think that the gaps would also be like I feel like for example, like I had when I was talking about the woman who wrote about the creation of Wonder Woman, Charles Malton, he was raised by his mother. So, and he also dabbled, he worked for a psychology department, so that's why he worked with lie detectors as well. So that's why Wonder Woman has the lasso of truth. Sorry for the sun. And he also was invested in getting, he had women around him who were fighting for equality. So like I remember I heard that his sister was arrested for being in a feminist rally. But so basically she was writing about, she was from 2000, she was writing on him in 2011. So basically he was focusing on feminism, but Charles Malton also lived with his wife and his mistress, and he also had a kink of tying them up. So she also wrote about fetishization. I can never say that word correctly, because Wonder Woman would also get tied and bound in her comics sometimes too. And I mean, I think that's also one of the reasons why she has a lasso too, because you tie people up with a lasso. Um, so basically I would see the gap in that and say like, oh, you know what, the reason she's in 2011, so she probably sees Wonder Woman through another lens, and Charles Malton was just seeing Wonder Woman through one lens, and the writer was seeing I forget, her name was Jill something. It started with an L. Lepore, I think. She's writing. Since she's in 2011, she's more issues about things that are coming up. So she probably has a lot more lenses to see Wonder Woman through than just feminism. Um, and so I feel like just like for the rubric that they want you to follow when you do an annotated bibliography is just give as much information as you can about every historian, why are they so essential to the to your top, why are they so essential to your topic, and why did you choose them specifically for your paper. And I just try to be as specific as possible, because also I'm trying to I'm trying to get a page count in as well. So I have to be mindful of that, because I so don't just give like two paragraph line, two lines of two and two paragraph lines of something, because you need, you obviously, these, like, just throughout my whole program, they just want to know why you're doing that. They want to know why the professors want to know why everything's happening, why you're picking this, why is this essential to you, because sometimes um they even like to know why your biases about, you can even have biases when picking something. um you can even have biases when picking historian. I mean, now that I'm looking at, now after I've talked about Wonder Woman and the historian, that I'm a Wonder Woman, it's funny, I love reading history books in my time. I love reading history books as a hobby, and not just, and I don't mean textbooks. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm looking at it. It's more getting the perspective of the. It's more the historian getting a perspective of the topic, not really a textbook. It's but I was biased. I bought it like a few years ago, like, I don't know, like a few years ago, 5 years ago, that book about Wonder Woman 5 years ago, because one, it's one, I was I'm just interested in I'm interested in human behavior, and I'm interested in obviously I'm interested in women's rights because I am a woman, and I think that's probably one of the biases I had towards it as well. So, and I'm not gonna lie, I also have a book on Batman psychology, but just throw that out there. Um, uh, so I don't even remember what I was saying, because I didn't need to put that Batman psychology thing in there. Um, so, like, just be as thorough as you can with stating, because that's the thing with papers, just papers in general. The professor always wants you to be as thorough as possible, give as much detail as possible. Historiography or research paper or whatever kind of paper you're doing, comparative, whatever kind of thing you're doing, they want you to be as thorough as possible in your. They want as much depth to everything as possible. It'd be so I so that comes to number three. How many sources do you usually need in this and to make an annotated bibliography? Probably, like, I usually probably use like 10 as minimum, because I do 10 to 15 for minimum. But right now, as of now, I'm doing only like 15 page. I'm only doing like, they've increased it since I first started to like 20 pages. I mean, not 20 pages, to like 10 to 15 pages of for an annotated bibliography. So that's why I would say 10 to 15. I usually have like 10 or 11. Because I, like I said, I'm trying to do a page count, but I also, since I'm going very into depth about what I'm saying in my evaluations of of my historians, that sometimes I can even go over the page count, because that's how thorough I want to be, and I don't want to leave my professor looking at it like I don't know what she's talking about. Also, I feel this is, so I just went through all of what, like, the basics for historiography paper. So historiography is also, like, I feel like graduate historiography papers are very different than PhD historiography papers, because I feel like I feel like I'm moving more into like how to do a historiography paper, But I mean, I feel like a PhD historiography paper, I've never experienced it, obviously, because I've never had a PhD, are different. But I don't know how different. Probably when I get to my thesis, I'll probably see how different it is, to a graduate paper. Um, Most likely, I know I'll have to write a lot more. Um, for the rubrics of the historiography papers, I feel like, for my classes, I feel like they keep getting more. For SNHU is not really that good in explaining stuff, because SNHU creates the rubrics. SNHU creates the rubrics. The teachers don't, and I feel like the rubrics for the discussions and for the final projects are a little bit ambiguous, and I have a problem with that a little bit, because sometimes I don't know what I'm doing, because every class is new to me, and there's something I don't know, and so sometimes, and I've never met the teacher before, so I can't like just spontaneously ask a question like you do when you're face to face with a thing. So it's just like I feel like I don't know. I mean, I can contact them by they either leave their email or phone number or both. And so I feel like I don't know what's happening, but thing is I don't know how to ask a question, because I don't know what I need to do. So I think that's one of the downsides of SNHU's rubrics. I think but SNHU does do a lot of surveys, so like I think that's one of the reasons. I think they're getting complaints from students. I don't know. Um, yeah. So yeah. So a little bit of misinformation. So like, and also I feel like you just have to remember what you did in your first historiography paper to help you with your next historiography paper, because the rubric's not really helping you. It's not really specifying what you need to do. So that's one of the reasons I have a flash drive. I've I've kept all my discussions, all of my historiography papers on a flash drive, because I would like to go back and refer to it, because I just don't understand some of the stuff. I just don't understand, and that's how I can. The annotated bibliography is not even stated that well, so that's how I remember that I need to do the strengths, weaknesses, gaps, look at the biases, why I want to change, pick this, because that's what happened in my first class, which was Intro to Historiography. And now I'm in my sixth class, and I don't feel like I'm getting enough the same information from the rubric in that class. Also, I wanted to say that, what else I want to say? Because I didn't write it down on here. I wanted to say that this is technically it is, you can, I actually think that it technically is kind of a research paper. Like, I know I said before, it's confusing. I know I said before, it's not a research paper in the beginning of the video, but it technically is. You're comparing, contrasting what historians say, but you're also comparing, contrasting what you say as well. Because you can agree with the historians, because you want to tell the reader what is usually said about this topic versus what you say about the topic. So you can agree with the historians, or you cannot agree with the historians. It's up to you. So like, you want the annotated bibliography, and this is according to a graduate program for the, I don't know about PhD for it. program for a thing. 'Cause I don't think they let you put the annotated bibliography in the for the PhD. I don't know, but okay. I wanted to finish this up, but like it kind of is a research paper. At the end, it's a research paper, but at the beginning, you're basically it's topic introduction, topic on why you pick the topic introduction, annotated bib, and then research paper. So the research paper is not the star of the show. The historians are the star of the show. What you think, you give your 2 cents at the end, and then your conclusion. But that's all. That's all I wanted to say. I hope this helps. And I just felt like there wasn't a lot of information that I could find about historiography. I mean, I know it's there, but you just have to do a little digging. So that's all I wanted to say. Bye.